What's interesting to me is silver hasn't moved that much, but there's been a shift in the center of gravity, and it's no longer the West that controls the price of gold and silver. The price of gold and silver is now set in Shanghai, and the Chinese control it. The Chinese are no better or no worse than Americans or Brits or anybody else. And now they're rushing into bonds. And every time the mob makes a big run like that, it ends in disaster. However, at some point in time, they're going to do that to gold, and they're going to do that to silver.
The global precious metals market has witnessed a seismic shift, with gold prices soaring to unprecedented heights above $2,400 an ounce recently. At the heart of this extraordinary rally lies China, the world's largest producer and consumer of gold, whose influence on the market has become increasingly pronounced. Bob Moriarty, a seasoned investor and market commentator with decades of experience in precious metals, observes that the center of power for setting gold and silver prices has pivoted from the West to Shanghai. This shift underscores China's growing control over these crucial markets. Several factors contribute to gold's allure as an investment. Escalating geopolitical tensions, including conflicts in the Middle East and Ukraine, and anticipated reductions in U.S. interest rates, have reinforced gold's status as a safe haven asset. However, the relentless Chinese demand has truly fueled this rally. China's appetite for gold spans various sectors, from retail shoppers and fund investors to futures traders and even the central bank. Despite being the world's top gold producer, China's domestic supply must meet enormous demand. In the past 2 years alone, China's gold imports have exceeded 2,800 tons, surpassing the total gold backing of global exchange-traded funds and equating to roughly a third of the U.S. Federal Reserve's stockpiles. Amidst this gold rush, Moriarty highlights an alarming trend in Chinese government bonds. Citing a recent CNN article, he notes a surge in demand for these bonds, driven by geopolitical uncertainties, fluctuations in the dollar's value, and the collapse of China's real estate market. China's onshore 10-year government bond yield has plummeted to 2.18%, its lowest level since records began in 2002. Similar historic lows are observed in 20-year and 30-year bond yields. Please tune in for our exploration of Bob Moriarty's expert analysis. Don't miss out on future content. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications to stay in the loop. We appreciate your support.
My belief, and it's just my opinion, that lots of people like to predict the price of gold. And I don't even try doing that because I'm not smart enough. But certainly $2,300 gold. Gold got as high as $2,450. And that certainly reflects the uncertainty geopolitically and financially in the world. What's interesting to me is silver hasn't moved that much, but there's been a shift in the center of gravity, and it's no longer the West that controls the price of gold and silver. The price of gold and silver is now set in Shanghai, and the Chinese control it. Now, let me read something to you. There's a piece that I'm going to post tomorrow, and it's a scary piece. Chinese government bonds are on fire. That's raising alarm bells in Beijing. And that article, believe it or not, came from CNN. I don't look to CNN for investment advice. But what's happening basically is because of the geopolitical crap going on, and because of the change in the value of the dollar, and because of the total crash of real estate in China, you have this mad rush for government bonds in China. Humans are animals, okay? And they react the same way birds do and fish do and gazelles in Africa. They want to be part of the herd. And the Chinese are no better or no worse than Americans or Brits or anybody else. And now they're rushing into bonds. And every time the mob makes a big run like that, it ends in disaster. However, at some point in time, they're going to do that to gold, and they're going to do that to silver. Now, I was in gold and silver. I was buying gold as early as 1968, And in January of 1980, I looked around and all these people that I had been telling to buy gold and silver for years, all of a sudden were telling me, hey, Bob, what you got to do is you got to put as much money into gold and silver as you can. And I thought, wait a minute, where were you when silver was $1.29 an ounce? Where were you when gold was $35? And they wanted to buy gold when it was $8.75. They wanted to buy silver when it was $50.25. So I sold all my gold and silver in January of 1980 because the sentiment scared me. The sentiment on Chinese bonds now absolutely petrifies me. I believe, and again, this is not, I did not come down the mountain with Moses. It's not written on a stone. I believe we're facing a financial catastrophe. And we've got so many things. Before you started recording, we were talking about there are so many things going on right now that are dangerous. And one little spark is going to ignite a bonfire.
The United States has expressed unease over India's continued engagement with Russia, following a meeting between Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Russian President Vladimir Putin. This marks Modi's first visit to Russia since the Ukraine invasion began in February 2022. A U.S. State Department spokesperson confirmed that India has raised concerns about its relationship with Russia. The meeting has drawn attention as Western nations, including the U.S., have been urging India to distance itself from Moscow in light of the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Modi, for his part, appeared to reaffirm India's commitment to its relationship with Russia. In a post on the social media platform X, the Indian Prime Minister stated that his talks with Putin will surely go a long way in further cementing the bonds of friendship between the two nations. For the United States, this scenario underscores the complexities of modern geopolitics. As noted by experienced investor and commentator Bob Moriarty, the U.S. has multifaceted relationships with many countries, including its complex ties with nations like Israel. The India-Russia dynamic is another example of how official policies and aid agreements often intersect with broader strategic considerations and historical alliances. Let's get back to the interview.
I don't see any leadership in the United States. I do not see any wise leadership. I don't see anyone saying, it'd be a good idea if we stopped shipping 2,000-pound bombs to Israel. They've shipped 14,000 2,000 bombs to Israel. Now, what the fuck did they think Israel was going to do with them? So Biden talks about, Israel, you shouldn't commit genocide, but supplies munitions. I don't see any significant difference between the Democrats and the Republicans. I think it's one snake with two heads. However, is that a giant black swan? And my answer would be absolutely yes. And I think the real danger is not whether there's an election. It's not who gets elected. I think the real danger is a potential civil war. It's obvious by now the Democrats have lied, cheated, and stolen all the way going back to the 2020 election. And they are literally coming out now saying, well, the Supreme Court has said the president has papal dispensation and he can do anything he wants as long as it's an official order. So why don't we kill Trump? I'm going, what? Okay. I saw Kennedy the night before he was killed. I would say, let me think. I was a 16-year-old kid in Fort Worth, Texas, and he flew into Carswell Air Force Base, and there were about 10 limousines, and they took him in downtown Fort Worth for the night, and he got up the next day and flew to Dallas and was killed. There was a point that I was going to make there, and I got so caught up listening to myself, I forget. What were we talking about?
Any differences between Trump and Biden with regards to geopolitics? I
believe, though I can't prove it, the CIA and Lyndon Johnson and the oil oligarchs in Texas murdered John F. Kennedy. But back then, when the CIA whacked presidents, they were at least quiet about it. Okay, now we've got a situation where we've got congressmen saying, hey, I've got an idea. Why don't we go whack Trump? Wait a minute. This is insane. Okay. How far overboard have you gone when you start talking about it? I've got an idea. Why don't we go kill our political opponent? Now, if they're talking about it in public, are they talking about it even more at private? The CIA has killed lots of people who were perceived as enemies of the United States. So there's lots of people in the United States now trying to define Trump as a public enemy of the United States. And of course, do you know what it is that Trump has done that has him so angry?
He's an outsider?
No, Trump has threatened to do the same thing to the Democrats that the Democrats did to him. Now, to me, turnabout, it's fair play. Okay, I would totally support that. I think it's a great idea. But he has threatened to do what they did to him. And I can't remember who it was. I think it was James Comey was on television. And he said, you know, Trump is a threat to democracy in the United States. He's threatening to go after the legal system. Well, yeah, okay. But Jesus, Kobe, you were part of the cover-up of the Hunter Biden laptop. You were part of the Russiagate nonsense. You were part of that whole thing that was set up by Barack Obama. And these people were all participants in the White House. Okay, and all this stuff is coming out now. James Clapper, okay, James Clapper was the guy who got the 51 intelligence professionals to sign a document that 51 of them knew was a lie.
How might the convergence of China's growing influence in the gold market, its domestic bond trends, and the evolving relationships between major powers like the US, India, and Russia reshape the global economic and political landscape in the coming years? Share your perspective in the comment section. If the video resonates with you, join our community by subscribing to our channel and enabling notifications with the bell icon. Thank you for being a part of our community.